Katie tells me that there are, and I've heard that some of the action in your books takes place actually not only in Rogers Park but in the Heartland. Could you give me a little hint about some event that happened here that I wouldn't give too much story away?
Well, actually, it's kind of a retreat for my main character and her husband. Every time they need to talk about their kids, they've got teenagers, they go to the Heartland.
Without the kids?
Without the kids.
Yeah, it's usually without the
kids. Kids are welcome here.
But, that's I place the story right around this neighborhood, so they go to the Heartland. And when my readers or my fans, they come, they want to do a yada yada tour of Chicago. They want to see all the places in the books. So I usually meet at the Heartland, and then one of those times I met Katie.
That's how we met.
There was a book group from Canada.
There was a big group of women sitting right over here, and anytime there's a large group of people,
we want to know what's going on.
I'm nosy, and I mean when I'm hosting, I'll say, "Who are you, and how do you know each other, and why are you here?" No, I don't ask why are you here. I say welcome. But I did go up to these people after the radio show and say, "Who are you, and what brought you together?" And it was one of her fan groups from Ontario, right? Or Toronto. They were from Canada.
Canada somewhere.
Hey, you don't have to know everything to write 17 books. They're from,
My next question would be...
Anyway, they were great. And they gave me, one of your people gave me the first books
That's right.
To kick me off.
Both Katie and I are working on a book together, and we have a couple of other books that we're involved with. I am curious to know about your discipline as a writer and how you do it. Do you get up early in the morning and spend a little time? Do you do it late at night? Fill us in.
Well, I happen to be
this is like industrial espionage, trying to learn about other stuff.
I happen to be very fortunate in that my husband, who's here today, husband Dave, is also a writer, and the good thing about that is that there's two of us, because it's hard to make a living as a writer, but there's two of us, so we double the pleasure, double the fun. The bad thing is that neither one of us has
a regular job.
Nobody's
got health insurance in the house.
But in our case, it's you don't write, you don't eat. So that's a pretty good discipline.
That's our new motto. That's it, Katie. Okay, get ready for the books.
So every day we have an office in our home. Every day we go to work, just like regular people, and we work till supper time. We divide up the cooking. We divide up a lot of things. But we're learning to dance, and so sometimes
you practice dancing as a break.
We'll get up and we'll just dance, because
I love you guys.
We grew up in one of those real conservative homes, no dancing. Well, okay, so we've discovered dancing, and in our advanced age, we are now taking ballroom dancing lessons, and we practice during our workday. So
that sounds like a beautiful combination.
Oh, and I will have to say that my husband, who is also a writer, has stolen some of my characters. He thought the guys were getting short shrift, so he wrote.
Usually, when the women
he took some of my characters from the House of Hope book, and he says, that Harry Bentley has much more of a story than you're giving him, and so he says he's really an ex-cop who ended up here.
Harry Bentley.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've met Harry yet.
Oh, no, you haven't met him in the Yada Yada, but
okay.
You would meet him in the next series.
Okay. I want to, the House of Hope.
So he wrote what he calls a parallel novel that takes place same time, some of the same situations, but there's this story going alongside.
From the guy's point of view.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It is cool.
You two are too cool for school. You know that, Dave? Dave is just blissed out about
his kids.
Playing with the grandkids. I don't blame him. So where do people buy your books, darling?
Almost anywhere. Barnes & Noble has them.
They do?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. And they're available at Books A Million. They're available online at all the online stores, which are unfortunately putting the bookstores out of business.
Thank you for saying so. But yeah, true.
But or you could go to our website, which is just daveneta.com, DAVENETA.com.
I mean, these two even have a simultaneous email. This is a close couple. They read each other's email. One of the things that really I like a lot about your book is that it continually looks at, struggles with, and addresses racism.
Yes.
Which, Michael and I, was one of the things that brought us together was our commitment to anti-racism work and creating an racism-free future, which is going to be a long time coming on this soil. But what have you yourself, Neta, learned by virtue of trying to write that struggle down? Clearly, you had to live it first in some ways.
Actually, this was my way of sharing the things that God has been teaching me, because, I grew up in a very religious home, thought I'd been there, done that, knew all that, found out I didn't know nothing.
That a girl?
But,
double negatives?
Yeah. The things that we experienced here, living in a multicultural neighborhood, realizing that you can't just invite people into your life. You have to go into their life.
Big.
And at one point, we decided that, all our efforts, even as a church, having an open door, wanting to be a multicultural, as long as you were still the majority, you still did things your way.
Yeah.
Just by virtue of numbers.
Bingo.
So we
Parity.
had to place ourselves. We decided that we would place ourselves in a situation where we weren't the majority. We began attending a primarily black church.
In Evanston?
And yes, and that was where Ricky Birdsong and his family was attending.
Yeah.
And that was so good for us because we had to kind of shut up and just listen.
Right.
And even though we'd been involved in various civil rights things over the years, we grew up in the 60s, spent our first anniversary on a anti-war march.
I knew you were from the progressive side of religion.
But the things that happened during that time, Ricky's murder, things like that, we just had to say, how does our faith relate to this?
Yeah.
And so writing fiction is one of the ways that I try to share my stories and what I've learned, and hoping to spread those stories, because I think people learn through stories. Even Jesus told stories.
That's right.
And they are fiction.
Right. They were fiction.
They're fiction. And but he chose that way to tell people stories, the things he wanted to teach.
Very cool. Very cool.
Thanks for coming on the show.
You guys are great. Thank you for having me.
Are you you're hanging around and having breakfast, I know.
Yeah, we are.
But if somebody wanted to buy a book right now from you, you have a few here?
Oh, you know what? I have a book to give away.
Oh.
If there's anybody that has a birthday today or this week, I would love to give them this book called Lucy Come Home. It's a story about a homeless bag lady, but it goes back to her teenage years and tells how she ended up on the streets of Chicago.
Okay, so it's International Women's Day +1, March 9th.
+1, right? Yesterday.
Anybody here have a birthday on March 8th, 9th, or 10th and want a book? Oh, goody.
Yes.
Our other guest on the radio.
March 8th? Bob, Alderman Bob, it was your birthday. This is your book.
Good.
That's
Hallelujah.
terrific.
That's awesome.
Okay, you are listening to Live from the Heartland Show. We're here every Saturday morning on WLUW 88.7, and
I want to say thank you to Neta, and let's have a big round of
applause for Neta.
Neta Jackson.
And we're going to take a short musical break. We're going to hear a little bit of Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks is going to play this afternoon at the Hideout, along with the other bands who are headed off to South by Southwest. People might want to show up and give them all a great big blast of